Is your shopping done?
I think, but I haven't wrapped everything yet, and so that always leaves me wondering, like, maybe I forgot something or somebody, or I didn't get enough for somebody or something. So it's always a baseline level of stress, because I'm always very worried about not having gotten somebody something or enough.
That's why you have a spreadsheet to track these sorts of things.
That would be wise if I was thinking that far ahead. Yes, I agree that that's the kind of thing I should do.
I assume John has just a series of Perl scripts to figure out what to buy people.
No, I don't do anything.
I was thinking maybe you would have just a large number of windows. I think that would be more you. Like maybe like one window that has like 15,000 tabs right in it. That was just like one tab for every person you've ever known for each gift that you might someday maybe want to get them, plus the ones you did get them, plus the ones you got them in the past for comparison and reference.
Actually, that does make a lot of sense.
You need a burn down chart for a number of gifts you have to buy other people.
What is a burn down chart?
I was about to say there's no way Marco knows what that is.
No. I assume this is another like business thing.
Yeah.
Well, it's a software development thing, but also a business thing.
What happens in a burn down chart? I mean, it sounds really fun. I'm guessing it isn't.
No, it's not.
So you're looking for, I think it's because they look like flames if you have like a layered bar chart, but you're trying to make it go down to zero. Like you're trying to make all these different things. It's like how many of X, how many Y, how many of Z in little bars over time. And that what you're trying to do is drop them all to zero. So you're not buying anybody any gifts is the goal.
I'm in the midst of reconciling our Visa bill, which is making me mildly upset because it's the holidays.
Like during the podcast, you're doing this?
I'm almost done. I only have a few.
If you want, we can discuss watching paint dry.
I was about to say that I know this is hugely entertaining.
We can walk through a sort algorithm on the air and just like an example data set of like how a sort algorithm sorts it.
That sounds super fun.
Yeah.
I use this app called Moneywell, which is...
What a name. Just chuck your money down a well. I think their icon was like a well at some point, too.
Right now it's a bucket full of money. But anyway, so I'm like 4 transactions away from reconciling my Visa bill, and then I get to pay it, which is super delightful because it's the holidays, and now I'm broke.
Well, the fact that your holiday purchases are already on a bill you've received means that you are way more ahead of the game than I am usually at the holidays.
Well, we should start with... this is a monumental... So this is a Christmas miracle. To the best of my knowledge, and I am not presently looking at the notes because I'm finishing reconciling my Visa bill, but to the best of my knowledge...
You're still... Just how long do you think it'll take? Should we just sit here and wait?
No. Wait, watch this, and... Well, you can't watch because you're not seeing anything. Boom. Reconciled. Done.
How does it feel to be reconciled?
So great. Except now I got to pay this not cheap Visa bill, which is...
But you are reconciled. That is so... It's like closure for all of your money. You're saying goodbye to all of your money. You're in a fully closed state.
That's true. You could say I have some reconcilable differences.
But you've reconciled them. You have reconciled differences.
I was waiting for that. I was waiting for you to artfully work it in, but I guess you just gave up.
You didn't think that was artful? Thanks a lot, jerk. I was pretty proud of that. Anyway, what the crap were we talking about? I already got a sidetrack. Oh, yeah. Do we or do we not have follow-up? I should take a screenshot of our show notes where there is the heading follow-up, there is a single bullet, and there is nothing else.
Yeah, everyone's on vacation. I think we had a couple other shows where there was nothing, and then I made something up on the fly, but I don't even have anything to make up because everyone is off. Everyone's watching Star Wars, and they're on vacation, and they're not sending us follow-up.
To that end, can we establish that I have not seen Star Wars, and I presume Marco hasn't either, and so I do not wish to talk about it, and I do not...
You assume Marco never will, so...
That's true.
Well, I wanted to start this episode with a bit of a game, with a 3 truths and a lie.
See, Marco knows things from corporate America. That's icebreaker they use.
So here's 3 truths. 3 statements of these are true, and one of them is a lie. And you have to figure out which one is the untrue statement.
Are any of these things Star Wars spoilers?
No.
Okay.
Number 1, I wrote my first Swift code.
Not possible.
Number 2, I played Journey. Number 3, I went to see Star Wars. And number 4, I started using Pinterest.
I went to see Star Wars is the lie because Marco doesn't see things.
Casey?
I would concur with that, but it's hard to vote against you actually writing. Like, there's no way you've written Swift. You're such an old man that there's no way. But I would have to agree with John that that is the lie, that you have not seen Star Wars.
You should have gone with your instinct, Casey.
Really? You saw Star Wars and I didn't?
Tiff and I went today to a movie theater to see Star Wars.
Wow. Whose idea was that?
I'm flabbergasted.
It was actually my idea, but she was also planning on wanting to go and going anyway, so it was kind of mutual.
Did you do this just so you could read the internet without worrying about spoilers? Or maybe Tiff was worrying about spoilers if you weren't?
Well, part of it was because I basically have no podcasts left in my podcast player that I can play without being about Star Wars. Like, everything that I have to listen to this week is about Star Wars, and I've listened to everything else.
So you were actually concerned about hearing Star Wars spoilers, that means. Like, otherwise you'd just like, whatever, Star Wars spoilers, I'm listening, I don't care, I'm never going to see it.
Well, so the greatest thing is, all of you Star Wars fans have been trying so hard to avoid spoilers, to go into ridiculous lengths. I successfully avoided any spoilers about the movie simply by just not really caring about the movie. I didn't put any effort into avoiding spoilers, but I went into the theater today knowing nothing about it and being pleasantly surprised by everything in it.
See, funny how that works. Yeah, I would say I've been avoiding spoilers, but I haven't been going to particular lengths to do so. It's just if I see like a tweet fly by that looks like it might be there might be a spoiler in it, then I'll just skip over it. And I haven't been reading reviews or anything like that. I've asked friends that have seen it, do you like it? And that's all I've asked. And, I've gotten some hints as to the quality of the movie, but I've not seen it. I'm hoping that Aaron and I will be able to see it, maybe even tomorrow, actually. But I am still avoiding spoilers. And I think my time is running out because I think the internet has kind of collectively decided, from what I can tell, that shortly after Christmas, all bets are off and everyone's going to talk about everything.
Right, and that's part of why I went to see it, because I'm fine ignoring major cultural events. I've never seen any of the Lord of the Rings, never seen Harry Potter, never seen Twilights, anything like most of the big movie franchises I've either never seen or I've seen some a long time ago and then never again.
Let me help you. Lord of the Rings, big waste of time. Harry Potter's pretty good.
Reverse that.
Please email John.
Anyway, but this one felt very, very important to my circles, like more so than those other ones did. And also, I have seen the other Star Wars movies. I did enjoy them. I am a Star Wars fan. I'm just not like a massive Star Wars fan, but I am a Star Wars fan, in general. So I did want to see it at some point. I was planning on watching it when it came out to video, maybe, or something, or I could get it on Netflix. But I figured, it's going to be talked about so much, and it's so important, in the circles that I live in, that I figured I kind of had to go see it in the theater.
I should have gone with my instinct because, in retrospect, the lengths you would go to prevent yourself from writing any Swift, that should have been the obvious answer. I mean, you have gone through some serious mental gymnastics in order to get to the point that you can justify not writing Swift.
I didn't say I'm never writing Swift. I'm saying I'm not writing Swift yet, but that I do intend to learn it probably when 3.0 comes out next year, because they're doing a bunch of big changes to lead up to that.
Well, you had just changed your mind about it recently, like in the past show. You're like, oh, I did that, that podcast, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to do Swift for a while. But then the open source thing came out and kind of turned you around. So you were primed to do Swift, but the real tell was that the fact that we were talking about Star Wars, and that prompted you to do the truths and a lie thing. So,
because I already had the list.
I knew you played Journey, and the other ones were easy. So it was just down to the Swift and the Star Wars. It just seemed so crazy for you to actually leave the house and go to a movie theater.
The Pinterest thing you didn't have any pause about the Pinterest thing?
I know you did Pinterest.
How'd you know?
Yeah, how do you know?
Tiff told everybody. You have puppies.
Oh, that's right, she did. Yeah, so I started a Pinterest account so I could collect pictures of puppies, watches, and things I want to buy for the house, like pipe heating wrap and the icicle melting zigzag wire that you put on the roof. Exciting stuff.
If you find good pipe heating wrap, whatever you're going to call it, tell me, because I have stuff around this is like stuff you put around the pipes to keep the heat from just leaking out into the areas where the pipes go through, right?
No, it's to prevent them from freezing if you have a pipe in an uninsulated space.
Never mind then.
So we have one in the garage from forever ago. It's like this ancient, 2-conductor cable that just like a heat wire that wraps in a coil around a pipe that runs through our garage because it's uninsulated, so that could freeze. That has burnt out and no longer heats, so I'm looking at new solutions to that, and they're all basically scaring me into either not doing it or having an electrician do it, because it all basically says that these things are insanely dangerous and you will start fires, and they all require insulation around the pipe and everything, and yeah, so I'm probably going to actually outsource this job, but we will see.
Living in the Northeast is the best because you have to worry about BS like this.
Well, because we have winter.
Well, right. Well, what you have really is months of depressing, evil, terrible winter-like season, whereas I have this brief respite from wonderful weather with slightly less wonderful weather and then it's back to wonderful weather again. So, but you continue being smug up there in your tundra, and let me know how that works out.
Yeah, it was wonderful there when we went there in July. That was really wonderful weather you had there.
Yeah, it was warmish.
Yeah,
that's not true. It was very hot when you guys were here. Like, even for us, it was extremely hot.
Yeah, I also ordered a Tesla this week, but we'll save that for the after show, I guess. It was a big week.
Big week for Marco, and you killed the web font on your website, which, by the way, I don't really agree with. I think that whatever font you have going on now, not making me happy.
No, I don't think I found the right solution to that. I'm experimenting with killing a web font. I might at least do a different web font because the service I was using, the Heffler & Co. Font, because I like their Ideal Sans font. There have been a few benchmarks done by people that have shown that typically their web font serving is not as fast as Typekit or some of the other big web font services, and not as fast as self-hosting and stuff. And they don't allow self-hosting, but they do kind of a weird thing where like you have to go through their CDN, but then it redirects to the font files on your server with no cache headers, so that you're making the clients make two requests. One of them is going back to your slow server and not to their CDN to actually get the big files, the big like 300 kilobytes worth of font files. And the only reason I'm there really is because I really like this one font they have. They have very nice fonts over there at Heffler. But I'm going to look at other options now because it was just too slow. Like if you look at the network timeline in the web inspector of like time it's taking to render this page, it's just insane. And you could argue, I've heard many counter arguments for why I shouldn't worry about the speed of my web font loading, most of which boil down to either that I should like async load it and then either pop it in or save it for the next load and put it on the next load. Both of those I think suck. Like neither of those I would say are good options. Just for user experience wise, like why would I want to do either of those? The other answer was, why do you care? It's just a blog. It doesn't matter how quickly it loads. And that's BS, because not only does it matter quite a bit how quickly pages load to whether people complete the loads, but when you're talking about loading a 300 kilobyte resource that requires 2 requests to be made before the page can even begin to load, this is like in the head, on mobile, and when you have bad connections and everything, that does matter. That really does add up to a significant delay when loading a page. It isn't like when you embed a big image, because that can load after the page loads. When you're on a mobile connection, that really matters. And it turns out that my traffic, like everyone's traffic, is mostly mobile these days. And you have to think about that when you're a blog or any kind of content site, especially a tech content site read by tech people. You're going to see a large portion of traffic on mobile. Many of those people will be on cellular at the time they are loading it. Yes, it would be nice if I didn't have ugly fonts on my site. But it would also be nice if my page loads very quickly. So I think I have to balance those things. I think maybe doing Typekit might be a little bit better because it's just a faster web font host. Maybe doing self-hosting would be a little bit faster because then it could optimize the connections a little bit better than going off to a different host. So we'll see. I'm going to play with it.
What led you to do all this? Because no disrespect intended, it seemed to me that you've kind of not abandoned, but avoided writing posts for a while now. You'll write your link posts to this show, to Under the Radar, but I haven't seen a whole lot of real writing from you in a while outside of when you had headphones or podcast mics or what have you. So what inspired you to just start paying attention again?
I was inspired by being forced by Dropbox.
Oh, right.
Basically, I use a Dropbox blogging engine that I wrote that nobody else should use. Please don't use it. It's terrible, but I like it and it's good for me. And they ended support for the version that was probably ancient, the Linux client that I was using for Dropbox on my ancient server running its ancient distribution of CentOS, I think 5.5 or something. So it was running an old stack, an old version of their thing, and I couldn't update it without upgrading some pretty big things like libc, and everybody was basically saying on the internet, never upgrade libc on a Linux system if you can help it. It's kind of a problem. So I migrated my whole blog to a new server. I love Linux. So every Linux is basically like, yeah, rock solid, runs forever, it's great. But you want to upgrade it? Forget it. Please don't do this. You really shouldn't do this. You should never upgrade a Linux server, blah, 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 blah. Like never upgrade the distribution. They all say that. Like, don't do that. The solution to upgrading a Linux server is to abandon it and make a new one. so that is what I did. So I was already like in there mucking around with the guts of it and setting up everything new and clean. So I figured, while I'm here, let me also take this opportunity to modernize it. So I switched over to HTTPS, and everything is now HTTPS. I dropped the www prefix, all this fun stuff to modernize the site. And so part of that was I've been thinking about dropping the web font for a while. It was actually about to it bills annually, and it was about to bill me again $160. So I'm like, maybe this is a good time to reconsider whether I want to keep using this font. So let me try without it. All that being said, you are right. I have barely written anything on the site of any consequence in a long time, in months, really. And, part of that was because, like, the last time I wrote stuff about app pricing, it went very, very badly. And so part of that was just I need to kind of rethink what audience I want to be writing to, who's reading this, do they really care, do I want to be taking the risk of some of the things that I would want to say, to risk getting all the feedback from it and having my name dragged all over the internet in horrible ways, and starting a bunch of drama. And most of the time, it's just not worth it to me, honestly, anymore. It's just not worth it. I do want to keep writing, but I'm kind of going through a process where I want to kind of try to figure out what I want to keep writing on the site, because having the kind of potentially controversial tech topic discussions I think are better here, where it's more human and people know me better, and you guys are here to rebut and to provide your own answers to things, so that I'm just not going off the deep end, going crazy and getting all the getting trashed because I said something horrible without any kind of rebuttal. And the developer help things, I would rather do that on Under the Radar, the other podcast that I do with Undercover David Smith, and anything that doesn't fit there, anything that is kind of helpful to developer economics, I think I'm just not going to reveal anymore because it has proven not to be worth it. And then there's lots of other things I could blog about. I can blog about headphones and coffee and microphones and stuff like that. Like, I can blog about lots of other things without being that controversial, or at least controversial in those ways that I've been kind of burned by. So I'll figure it out over time. I have noticed that not writing anything of substance in a while is not making me feel good, and is actually making me a worse podcaster. Because as you can tell by this long rambling thing, I kind of, not only do I have like more to say because it like builds up in me all week, and then I like spew it all out at once in a podcast, and that's no good. But also my arguments on the podcast are getting less coherent and less organized. I think that is partially because I've been sick for like 3 weeks, and partially because I think not writing is actually making the arguments in my head more weakly structured and more weakly organized, if that makes sense.
Just write it and don't publish it.
That's one way to do it. Or like, write it's like a private email list or something like that. That might be a good idea. I'm not sure if it would be as good. Like if you only surround yourself with people that agree with you or that want to read it, or if you're writing for something that is such a small audience, possibly of just you, then I think you lose the ability for people to improve you in constructive ways. And I think that would be unfortunate, and it would not give the writing as much value to me as it would for if it was in public.
Oh, I was going to give you a constructive improvement, but I just realized it might just be Chrome. Let me just check.
Reload. I didn't change the name of the CSS. If you reload, I think it's...
no, it's just Chrome. Never mind.
What?
I was going to complain that the new font you'd chosen apparently didn't have a good emoji glyph for the cloud icon that you use next to the streaming heading in the Overcast 2 post, but it's just Chrome.
It's a black cloud.
It looks like a little turd. Yeah. But it's just Chrome. Never mind. Carry on.
I don't understand why everyone loves Chrome so damn much.
It loads t.co links successfully, so it's got that going for it.
Yeah.
Well, see, I turned off, I think Renee Ritchie may have found it. Somebody had found a way to do a defaults right for Tweetbot, which I know is not what you use, John, but to do a defaults right to just direct to the actual URL instead of a T-Co-Link or whatever we're calling them. And that made everything 1,000,000% better. And all of the issues that so many people seem to have with Safari, I genuinely never run into them.
So you haven't got the new one in El Capitan where the entirety of the window Chrome becomes inert. Like you can't put the insertion point in the address bar. You can't click the window widgets. You can't click any of the toolbar buttons. You can't use the scroll bar. I get that one twice a week now.
No, but remember that I have a sane amount of tabs open. I don't have 3,000 windows and 4,500 tabs.
Oh, that's not why. I get it with 2 browser windows open, and then one of them is dead.
Again, I'm sure that these people who say that Safari is a piece of crap, I'm sure they're saying that for a reason, but darned if I know why, because my experience does not match with that. And I don't think that Chrome is bad outside of the piss poor, just awful emoji support. I don't think Chrome is bad, but I don't feel like it brings anything to the table that I care about. And again, I'm sure that, there are all sorts of Chrome, diehard Chrome fans that are firing up email clients right now.
No, they're not. They're using Gmail.
Yeah, exactly. To probably using Gmail to write me some sort of nastygram about the things that Chrome does better than Safari. And maybe that's true. I'm not saying that they're wrong, but in my personal experience, I have never thought to myself, you know what, I really wish I could use Chrome for this because it does whatever better.
Yeah, I still run both.
I use Safari as my primary. I used to use Chrome. I used to use one at work, one at home, and so I would always be up to date on both. and now I just been using Safari now for a while as my primary, and Chrome is my Flash isolation area. But anyway, my Flash quarantine. But Chrome has always been very consistent for me with performance, with reliability and everything. Safari is all over the map with every new version. So, sometimes Safari is great for a while. Sometimes Safari gets slow or buggy or inconsistent or it crashes or something for a few releases. And in my experience, Chrome is just way more consistent. Also, I think Chrome has the better web dev tools most of the time. So we'll see. Anyway, we will hear from all the Chrome people and what they think, because Chrome, I believe, has more market share than Safari in pretty much every by anyone's metric. I'm pretty sure it's substantially ahead of Safari now. So the world has voted, just like they used to vote for Compaq and Dell computers, that those are the best.
Oh goodness! All right, so not speaking of things that are awesome, why don't you make us happier after mentioning Compaq and Dell and tell us about something that is awesome?
There's this company out there that I have just talked about for the first part of this podcast quite a bit, and it's called Linode. Or Linode, I don't even know. So it's Linux, Linode, I don't know, but I say Linode. It's a web host. It's been around for a long time now, and I have been a Linode customer myself for quite a long time. I think maybe 6 or 8 years at least. I've been there a while. I have done a lot of web hosts in my time. I've used a lot of them, big and small, from as stuff as big as hosting the first 4 years of Tumblr at a huge host, all the way down to hosting little private sites for myself and my friends and everything. Over the years, I've liked Linode so much, and they've gotten so good that I now host everything at Linode. I think I have one dedicated server left somewhere else for some auxiliary tasks, only because I haven't gotten around to moving it to Linode yet. It is such a great host. And they can't pay me to say this. I'm saying this honestly as me. I was hoping to get them as a sponsor because I've used them forever, and I really do genuinely like them and recommend them. In my opinion, it is the best value in web hosting today. They did a major upgrade about 2 years ago now, or a year ago, when they switched everything to SSDs. So it's all fast, all SSD, modern CPUs. More recently, they switched their hypervisor software from Zen to KVM. The latest Unix benchmark showed that it is 300% performance increase moving to KVM from Zen. So I've done this with all mine. It's been fine, rock solid, everything's great. You want to host things at Linode, believe me. If you want real web hosting, you want root access to your own server that you can configure however you want, and you can install your own software and run your own stuff. You want to do that at Linode. It really is an incredible value for what you get. It is very affordable. The hardware and speed and bandwidth is solid. Check it out. I use it. I recommend it. Linode.com/ATP will give you a $10 credit using promo code accidentalpodcast10. So go to linode.com/ATP, get a $10 credit by using promo code accidentalpodcast10. Thank you very much to Linode for sponsoring our show.
We have some news in the Apple executive lineup. John, do you want to kind of give us a synopsis as to what's been going on there?
That was so long ago, I can barely remember. That was the news. It was like right after we recorded last week's podcast. We were like, wonder what news they're going to dump at the end of the year. The news was, I think, a fairly tame reorg where Phil Schiller got control of the App Store stuff, that used to be under Eddie Q. Eddie Q still has like the whole media thing and Apple Music and all that stuff, I think. And they named, what's his name? Jeff Williams, COO, but he was already doing that. And not a lot of exciting things there. But the thing the developers got excited about is the moving of any App Store responsibilities from one person to another. And I guess people are getting hopeful just because, hey, it's a change and things are bad now, so change has the potential to be good. But Phil Schiller has been in charge of app review. Marco can correct me if I'm wrong. For a while now, right? That's not new.
I believe since the start.
Yeah, he's just getting the rest of the App Store. And so app review is one of the things that developers complain about a lot. And Phil Schiller has always had that. So he's not exactly your sort of savior of the App Store. If you've been disgruntled about app review stuff, that's Phil Schiller, and now he's got the rest of it. The hope is, I guess, that Phil Schiller's organization, I don't know, like, will improve the tech parts of it better, like make iTunes Connect nicer and let Mac developers use TestFlight and fix the Mac App Store sandboxing so people can actually test their apps in the sandbox before. I don't know. Like, that's the hope, that Eddie Q seemed to not be able to roll out the features, like the software and server-based features for developers as quickly as developers wanted, and that somehow Phil Schiller would do better. I have no idea if that is the case. But I have to admit, I'm also slightly optimistic just because things have been kind of not great, limping along for a really long time, and I like to see some kind of shakeup, even if it's like the world's most minor shakeup.
So yeah, I mean, just to fill out what you said, basically the developer ecosystem of Apple has always been under these three different divisions in the company. There's the engineering division under Craig Federighi. They make all the APIs and the new OSs and everything. And then there's the developer relations division, which is under Phil Schiller's division under marketing, and that does like WWDC, the developer program, and also app review and the app review policies. And then there's the store division and the editorial part of it. That has been under Eddie Q in the services division, and that decides like what apps to be featured and how the store works and running the store backend and everything. I would imagine it also involves the store apps themselves. So that to have this under three different divisions, you could always tell in the past where there has been some kind of like miscommunication or friction in the past. So, for example, you would have an app that was featured by the App Store editorial team under Eddie Q because it was doing some new cool thing, and then the app review team would call them up and say, "Oh, sorry, we're not going to allow this. You got to take this app down," while it's being featured by the other department in the store. And so you have these kind of like weird miscommunications or disagreements between the divisions that have caused some friction or some clumsiness in the past. The engineering side is still going to be under Federighi, still totally separate. Obviously, that makes sense. But the developer relations and the App Store is now together under Phil. And interestingly, as our friend Ben Thompson pointed out on Stratechery, and I think this was one of the private members-only things, but if not, we'll link to it. A lot of people aren't paying a lot of attention to the fact that Phil Schiller has actually lost a big chunk of his responsibilities in this as well. What corporate people call Marcom, marketing communications, which I think that's like advertising and stuff, right?
Oh, beats me. I know nothing about that stuff.
Anyway, that used to be under Phil, and now they announced the new hire, whose name I forgot, I'm sorry. The new hire is now taking over marketing communications from Phil and reporting directly to Tim Cook. So this stuff has been removed from Phil's plate, it appears. And then Phil has gained the app stores. And logically, I don't know how this works, internally. There's obviously a lot of implementation details here that we don't know. Like, the big one to me is, how do you separate the app stores from the backend that they run on, which is all presumably still under Eddie Q's division? There's going to be some weirdness there, I would imagine. But high level, it certainly appears that Phil has lost his responsibility of running the advertising part of it, and gained the responsibility of running the app stores, whatever that includes. Because he already ran developer relations and app review, that makes some sense. So, John, I'm with you in that I am optimistic about this. I don't think we're going to see meaningful change to the App Store policies. Any kind of rule that you can't do now, any kind of controversy over app review, I wouldn't even expect improvements to app review, at least on iOS. Like on the Mac App Store, having these occasionally very long review times, I hope they fix that, because that's just messed up. I mean, that's bad. That's embarrassing. And that's obviously not the way it's supposed to work, to have your app sit in review for a month. But, when it is working, like on iOS, when you typically get, a 7 or 8 day review time, I don't think we're going to see any major changes to that system, the system of app review as we know it today. That is here to stay for a long time, because the person who is at the very top of that organization just took control of the entire App Store. Obviously, they're not looking to change that. But the things that I think that I'm optimistic about here are that, first of all, I can't get a great read on Phil, but the more that I know of him, or the more that I hear him talk, or that I hear stories about him, the more I think I like him. I think he has sensibilities that line up with mine more so than most of the other high up Apple executives, and more so that are in the interest of kind of the old Apple. And that comes with some good and some bad. That's why, app review I don't think is going anywhere, because that, it's like the old school Apple. But overall, this is a good thing, if for nothing else, because as you said, John, it is a sign of a pretty big change. And if you look at things that stagnate or have problems in Apple, many of them, I would say possibly even most of them, fall under that services division. That is clearly a place where they have had a lot of problems in the past, and we keep hearing that they're getting better. Some of the things they're doing are better, like the new CloudKit stuff, the new Photos sync. Some of that stuff is really good. And so I think they are getting better. And we're hearing stories about them running Linux servers now, and doing this Apache Mesos thing, and now this is probably where Swift on Linux is going, and we're seeing lots of rumblings that this department is getting better, and some evidence of that is coming out to the consumers. But even if they start doing really well, they also seem dramatically overloaded, and they seem like they have a lot of trouble making progress on especially on multiple fronts. So the App Store has basically done nothing. The App Store has gone almost nowhere, has improved very little, or has changed very little since its inception in 2008. If you look at the App Store today versus the App Store in 2008, it really is not that different. Yes, some things are better, but not what you would expect for, 7 years, 7.5 years? Not what you'd expect for that amount of time. So to move a big chunk of this division out of it, under new leadership, in a different division of the company, to have that be the App Store, the thing that controls so much of my living, many people's livings, the modern computing landscape, so much of this is dependent on the App Store and the way it's run and its policies. To move that to another executive is a big change, I think. It seems like it would be a big change. I mean, I don't think this is just some paper thing. So I hope that this is a sign that they are finally going to change the App Store. They're finally going to improve it, to start making meaningful changes. And again, I don't think it's going to be in regards to app review. I think we're stuck with that for a long time, but it could be in regards to many things that could use improvement. Things like, if you want upgrade pricing or trials, that's the kind of place, this is the kind of change that would happen. If you want improvements to the Mac App Store, or better, look, if you look at the health of the app stores, pretty much all of them except the iPhone one need help. They're not in great shape. The iPhone one is doing okay simply because of its massive volume, but it could still use some improvement. All of that now is kind of, we have renewed hope that the App Store might finally get better, because they just did this seemingly substantial sounding move. I have high hopes for that, especially to be under Phil. He cares a lot about the Mac, about the product quality, and they wouldn't have moved this for no reason. There was nothing pressuring them to move it. There was no reason they had to do this. So they clearly want to do this, and it has to have been this move has to have been for a good reason.
I think there is some kind of pressure, because it's always hard to tell why things are happening inside Apple, because obviously the press release isn't going to tell you, and all I can do is look at the experiences I've had in the companies that I've worked for when they've shuffled people around, and the only real underlying thing other than stuff you don't know about, because there's so much information you don't have. Like, for all we know, like maybe someone, is going to retire soon, or, maybe someone has expressed an interest in doing something different, right? But you don't know about that stuff if it's not in the press release. But usually if some top executive, like the CEO or whatever, is not getting something they want out of some subdivision of the company, they usually let that slide for a while, but eventually it's like, I've wanted X for 2 years now, and this person hasn't delivered it. It's time to give another person a chance. Sometimes there's the, give the really hard job to this one executive who's great for, tackling tough problems, and that person bounces around like the problem solver or the fixer or the what do you call it? Silver NSX, Casey. Oh, it's a movie reference. You won't get it. The wolf. The wolf is definitely a fixer. Anyway, it could be that, but like either way, it's like someone is not getting what they want out of insert thing. And it could be someone not getting what they want out of Marcom, and that's why a new guy has to come in to take it. Is someone not getting what they want out of the App Store? We don't know, because it could be, say the marketing stuff seems stagnant, like Apple's marketing message isn't evolving, and for a while we wanted to change, and Phil doesn't seem capable to get out of the rut. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring in someone new. They're going to take over the marketing and communication. But since Phil is such an important person, you can't take away that from him without giving him something else. And Eddie's got a lot of stuff, so give it over to him. All right, so that's one plausible scenario. Another one is the one that we're all thinking of, which is like, Eddie, for years we wanted X out of, this App Store stuff. It hasn't been happening, so we're going to take that away from you and give it to somebody who is more, I don't know, who we think is going to do a better job. I don't know if Phil Schiller is the person who's going to do a better job with that particular thing. Like, there's just so much we don't know. But the bottom line is, these things don't happen without a substantial reason, because top executives hate having responsibility taken away from them. It's not a demotion, but it's seen as like, Phil Schiller is not really, he got a bunch of responsibilities taken away, but he took the mantle of something else. So I feel like this is, in the political org chart of Apple, is a little bit of a down arrow on Eddie Q and a little bit of an up or sideways arrow on Phil. That's just the way it feels to me from the outside. And what I think about is assuming this theory is correct, that a little bit down arrow on Eddie Q, what is it that top executives might have wanted that they weren't getting out of Eddie Q? And that makes me think of the success hides problem things, where in the beginning, when Eddie Q had the iTunes store and the App Store and everything was going gangbusters, hey, the App Store is super popular, everybody loves apps, they're installing stuff, and like every year, every quarter, he, at every meeting, Eddie could be like, look at these crazy numbers, look how many apps we have, look how many people are downloading stuff, look how many developers are signed up. Like every metric that he could possibly, every chart he could put up, every number he could throw in someone's face was like, I'm in charge of the App Store, and the App Store is awesome. But as you pointed out, Marco, at a certain point, like those numbers, not that they level off, it's like, yeah, we heard lots of apps, lots of whatever, but what's this I'm hearing about, developers don't like this, or it's hard to search in the store, or this, we bought this company to redo the store, but it kind of looks the same and people don't think it's that much better. And just from regular, like, you don't have to be plugged into this community. Just Tim Cook can go to the App Store on his own phone to try to find something and notice that there are problems. And bring that up 2 years ago to Eddie Q, and he'd be like, oh yeah, no, we'll take care of that. No, we're working on this, working on that. And at a certain point, it's like, it doesn't, again, things that someone who's not plugged into the developer community, just Tim Cook on his own phone, using the App Store, can be like, doesn't seem like, regardless of whether I think this is good or not, and your numbers are great, and your reliability is great, and you're making a lot of money or whatever, it just doesn't seem like it has gotten that much better over the past several years. So maybe it's time for a change. Now, this could all be delusions based on our perspective as outsiders and people who know a lot of developers. It could be something entirely unrelated, but to me, that's a plausible scenario that not that Eddie Q was coasting, but that like when you're on the fun part of the hockey stick, it can hide a lot of stuff. And at a certain point, either the hockey stick levels off or that stuff becomes old hat. And you need like, what have you done for me lately? What have you done to the App Store lately? Because the complaints are there and the feedback is there, and, people leaving the Mac App Store and long review times. I don't know if that's even involved in that. And, like features in iTunes Connect, and it just seems like at this point, no matter how distantly you removed are from the developer community, you can do what Marco just said and say, look at what the App Store was like 5 years ago and look at what it's like now, and think, is that 5 years worth of progress in the App Store? And you just have to say no. And so that's why that feels like the strongest reason why there might be a shakeup related to the App Store. Regardless of what you think of it, it's just that it's just not progressing and advancing the way you would hope it would.
Well, and also, like, I think, as I mentioned last episode, I think you can look at their recent product launches, the Watch, the Apple TV, and the iPad Pro. In all three of those cases, you can very clearly point to the app ecosystem and the app stores themselves as holding these products back significantly. The TV app store is frankly embarrassing. There's so little in it. It is so hard to use. It is so hard to find anything. There's no there's no public links for TV apps. You can't, if you hear about like Badland 2 came out this past week or sometime recently. I wanted to get it on my TV, or at least find out if it was available on the Apple TV. I could not find this information out anywhere except walking over to the TV and typing poorly Badland 2 into that horrible text entry field and finding nothing. And I wasn't sure, is search just bad right now, or is it really not here? And it turns out I don't think it's out for the TV yet. Had it been out for the TV, I would have no way on my computer or my phone or any other device to have clicked buy this app and have it show up on my TV. There are simple things like this where the store is really not helping. It's really hindering things. Not to mention the way bigger challenge of developer economics and making it worth developing for these platforms, which is a whole separate discussion, but is related to this.
Who's in charge of that? Just to give one example, upgrade pricing. Developers have wanted upgraded pricing for a long time. Who of all the people at the top execs we know at Apple are the people saying no to upgrade pricing, and are they still in charge of that decision?
Well, I think it was kind of a combo. I mean, that kind of thing before would have been if you look at the app review rules, there are many app review rules related to pricing and what you're allowed to do with your pricing and what you're not. What has to be free, what has to not break or not have limits on it or whatever. So a lot of that is under app review. But then anything related to things like upgrade pricing would have had to be implemented by Eddie Q's division. So that kind of thing spanned both divisions. And I think that's one of the reasons why we've seen so little change of that type, because it would have involved these two divisions working together, which was probably problematic or at least burdensome.
They implemented bundles, which was seems like so much more complicated than upgrade pricing. I mean, they did in-app purchase and they did bundles, two features that are fairly complicated. So it seems like when whoever is the head of this snake wants to change to the economics, we want to make bundles possible. We want to make in-app purchase possible. That's going to involve your team, Eddie, because you got to handle all the bundle and the pricing or whatever. And in-app purchase is going to be like a back end that we're going to talk to or whatever. But it just seemed to me that those efforts weren't coming from Eddie Q's team. And I'm just wondering, who, I just pulled upgrade pricing out of the hat, but just in terms of the economic issues, somebody is setting the policy. I feel like in an organization like Apple still, if somebody high enough up said, you know what, we're going to do upgrade pricing, it would happen. Regardless of who's in charge of implementing it, maybe it would be cruddy, and maybe the interface for it and iTunes Connect would be bad, and maybe it would be buggy to begin with, and maybe it would be difficult for developers to test. All those things you can blame on Eddie Q or whatever, but I always wonder where this decision is made. Do they have a meeting where it's should we revisit this upgrade pricing, or does it never come up? Do they decide once back when Steve Jobs was still alive that upgrade pricing is good for developers but bad for users, and let's never revisit that decision, despite how the iPad Pro may change that equation or whatever?
You have to also look at how important is this thing that's very important to us. How important is this relative to the division it's in, then the company it's in, and so relative to all of Apple as a whole, I don't know how important they consider things like the App Store and developer happiness with the App Store and everything else. I don't know.
Well, but they see the tertiary effects. It's why aren't more people buying iPad Pros? Why are people leaving the Mac App Store? Why aren't all these awesome apps that we know it's possible to build appearing on the iPad Pro? Why is Adobe not making a full-fledged version of Photoshop for the iPad Pro? All sorts of questions about why aren't people taking advantage of our platform. And the one answer they have is we haven't sold enough hardware, but it's kind of a chicken egg situation. The other answer is, what is it about, specifically for the iPad Pro, what is it about our platforms that, we all know the answers, that lends itself to applications that a bunch of people write and support while they can still make money and then abandon? There is no sort of 10-year, 20-year application because you can't get any more revenue from them unless it's an in-app purchase type of thing where you're constantly, fleecing people for in-app currency or whatever. Other than those models, why is there no model for sort of professional applications that people buy on a regular basis? I guess they could do subscriptions, but then, like we all know what the App Store policies are there that make it difficult to have a sustainable high-end software package that continually gets upgraded on Apple's iOS platforms. And it's because all the tools people are used to either don't exist or have a 30% tax that's just mostly untenable. Like Adobe loves their subscription revenue. Adobe would love subscription revenue a lot less if Apple took 30% of it.
Right. And I mean, there have been so many unimplemented or lost or canceled ideas and services and products because of that 30%. I mean, that is not a small number. Like that is a number that makes or breaks people's business models in a lot of cases. Going back to Eddie Q to his division, like if you look at what else that division had to do, while the App Store was under them, that's all of iCloud, that's all of Siri, that is all of the stores, the other stores, the music stores, that's Apple Music,
the streaming television plan that still hasn't happened,
right? And it's all the content deals. It's negotiating with and dealing with all these content companies also, and Apple has not done well in that area recently. And I don't know if this is just Q doing his job badly. Probably not. It's probably more complicated than that.
No, it's more like people have Apple's number now. Like the first one was easy. Like and then people learned their lesson from iTunes, and it was like, no, we're intentionally giving our business to Amazon to check your power, Apple. So now it's much harder to go because Apple doesn't want to come out with a plan. Well, as far as I know, nobody has a plan that is a convincing replacement for quote unquote real television at this point. And Apple wants to be the first, so they're going to have to be the ones to explain to the big networks and everybody, just trust us. This won't disempower you, and you won't lose your shirt on this deal, but you have to bring the price down because no one's going to buy it if it costs as much as cable but isn't as good as cable, which it won't be because our stupid Apple TV box isn't that good.
Right. And this is another thing where, like, kind of what I was saying last week about how Apple doesn't really seem to know how to be in a negotiating position of not just absolute power. I think that last week I was talking about developers, but this week I think that applies very equally to the content problems, the content deals.
Well, I'm willing to say here that in this negotiation between Apple and television networks, I'm willing to put money that the television people are being more unreasonable than Apple. It feels like a safe bet. Like every time Les Moonves makes a public statement, I'd be like, I don't envy Apple trying to negotiate with these guys because I think that they don't get it and Apple is trying to explain it to them. So I really it's hard to fault Apple in these things. Maybe they are being a little bit stubborn, but geez, they're trying to pull an industry's head out of the sand, and it's slow going.
No, and that's fair, but that industry, I think, is still doing really well without Apple. And so the dynamic is different. Like, one of the reasons Apple was able to have so much power in music and get such great deals for music is because the music industry was kind of naive and also pretty desperate. And in this case, today that's not the case anymore, especially with TV industry. Like, the TV industry is still doing very well and still making tons of money.
Well, Apple should have been Netflix, but wasn't. Like, Netflix got there first, right? So, and then now everyone, it's a bigger mess. Like, you're right that like music, I don't know if music was more desperate, but music was smaller and more tractable, and nobody knew what was going to happen. And Apple just steamrolled everybody. And then everyone saw what happened, and everybody who basically lost power to Apple in that was like, no, we're not doing that again. So every other industry, from ebooks to television to movies to everything, was like, if Apple comes calling, look at the music industry as a cautionary tale and negotiate differently and find another way. And we're going to make our own streaming apps, and we're going to make deals with Netflix, and who knows what we're going to do. But yeah, it's a more complicated world. And I do wonder, like, I don't know anything about Eddie Q other than I see the guy on stage and hear him talk.
We know he's not a big fan of buttoning his shirt.
Yeah, well, it just keeps getting lower. But I always wonder what his core skill set is. Like, he's not an engineer, right? He's not an ex-programmer or anything.
We've always heard that he is like the negotiator, like that he is really good at these content deals, apparently. Or I've also heard that he has a reputation of like being the fixer, like kind of getting things done. But I honestly I don't see it.
not on iTunes Connect.
No, well, and look, I mean, iTunes Connect is the least of the developers' problems. I mean,
well, all things associated with like test flight integration and the process, your visibility into the app review process, and the ability to contact a human about your thing and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, but like, yeah, I mean, the problems with the App Store go way beyond like the iTunes Connect web interface. Like that, it goes so far beyond that. I mean, that's iTunes Connect is good enough for what it does. It's not great, but it's fine. It's like the admin panel that we all make for our websites. Like, no one's admin panel is nice. iTunes Connect is not nice, but I don't need Phil Schiller to fix iTunes Connect. We need Phil Schiller to fix a lot bigger problems than that.
Eddie Q got a bachelor's in computer science and economics from Duke.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. Like, I can't get a read. It was obviously at this level of the hierarchy. You're not doing anything. You're telling people who are telling people who are telling people to do things, which is fine. Like, it's management. I'm trying to think, like, things that were put under Eddie Q that saw substantial improvements, or that got better, or that, like, he's got a lot of sort of stars on his, whatever you call them, on his lapel, right? Like, iTunes and the stores and the App Store, especially in the initial part, there's lots of big, important, good numbers you can put up there. I bet he got a lot of big bonuses in a lot of those years, and because everything looked good. But just lately, not that it doesn't look good anymore, it still looks good. But like I said, it's like, what have you done for me lately? What improvements have you made to the system? Yes, it's a system. People can upload apps, they can put them on stores. We have multiple stores, we have multiple things like. But it just doesn't seem like it's progressing. Like, we've all been hearing the exact same complaints from the developer side of it for so many years. And so, like, just set that aside, because a lot of people listening are like, who cares about developers? I don't care about developers. Apple should only care about users. Users should come above developers. And I think that's right. Users do come above developers, and should, because there's many, many more of them.
But it's related, because, like, as a user, you might be like, I don't care what developers think about pricing on the App Store. And then at the same time, you might be like, I just got this iPad Pro. Why isn't there more software updated for it?
Yeah, or why is this thing that I downloaded, this throwaway app that no one's ever going to support, that doesn't work right? And but I'm saying, set that aside for a second, just because I totally believe in the importance of that. But just set it aside. I really do feel that from the user's perspective, the App Store as experienced by the user, you just talked about it, Marco. The App Store as experienced by users of Apple TV, or just as a user going to the App Store, finding stuff, feeling good and confident about the things that you find there. I think that has not progressed, and the sort of cesspits of it have gotten deeper and more dangerous. The cesspits of free to play, all those mechanics that are taking money from people, and the cesspit of, at this point, sort of single use, unsupported applications that are clogging up your search results, and make it much harder to find the one or two good apps among. Because, like, they always brag about how many apps they have. Once that number got to like 6 or 7 digits, it stops being a plus. It starts being a minus. I don't want 10 million applications. I don't want 1 million applications, even 200,000 applications. Like, seriously? Can we, those all can't be winners, right? There's a lot of, right? So, not that I'm saying Apple should reject more things from the store or whatever, but, like, at a certain point, the number of applications you have becomes Apple's problem to solve, not their thing to brag about. And their problem to solve is, Amazon has probably millions of products, but I find it easier to find decent things on Amazon, because their review system is better than Apple's, because their people who like this, like that is a little bit better. Like, all the parts that have to do with dealing with lots of products and presenting it to users, that part of the experience of being a user of Apple products has, again, regardless of what you think of it, just hasn't gotten that much better in years and years and years. And so that is an area where I feel like, no matter what you think about it, you have to say, we are not progressing fast enough. I don't know if competitors are nipping at their heels or whatever, but if you can make that experience better, as they showed with the App Store to begin with, if you can make that experience better, that can do really big things for your bottom line and for your customer sat and for your developer satisfaction. Letting developers be able to respond to reviews or contact people anonymously, or like, it's just, that's low-hanging fruit. It's not even that big a deal. And it's like, well, that's, we can't do that. The App Store just came out. It's been years. Like, give me one of those a year for 5 years, and it would make a much bigger difference. And I know they did things. I just mentioned the bundles, and in-app purchases arguably are an important thing, and subscriptions and opening the stuff that used to be newsstand only up. Like, they have done some things, but it just feels like stagnation, and I don't feel good going into the App Store these days unless I know exactly where I'm going. And if I can't get a direct link like on the TV, I don't know what I would do.
We are also sponsored this week by Fracture. Go to fractureme.com and use code ATP15 to get 15% off your first order. ATP15 at fractureme.com. Fracture is vivid color photos printed directly on glass. I have tons of Fractures around my office. Honestly, they're great. I love them. People always compliment them. It is literally just like, they take your photos, They rescue them from like your Instagram feed or whatever that like, you see once and then you never see it again. They take your photos and print them on a piece of glass that you can give as a gift. You can hang it up in your house. You can put it on your desk, whatever you want. These are beautiful prints. It's printed on the backside of a very, very thin piece of glass. So that way it isn't big and heavy, like this giant thing you have to worry about crashing off your wall and breaking. It's nice and thin and light. So it's very easy to deal with, very easy to hang, very low stress to have on your wall. And it just looks like the photo is just edge to edge right there on the surface with a nice gloss on top. These make amazing gifts. We've given, I don't know, maybe 10 of them as gifts so far, and we're gonna keep doing it because everyone loves them. These things make great gifts to your family, your friends, your coworkers. Check them out. Big thanks to Fracture for being a longtime sponsor of this podcast. I do highly recommend them. They are beautiful photo prints on glass. Go to fractureme.com. Use coupon code ATP15 to get 15% off your first order. Thank you very much to Fracture for sponsoring our show once again.
So also in the last week, 60 Minutes and Charlie Rose did not really an interview, but a feature on Apple. And they were afforded a little bit more access than most TV crews are afforded. Have you guys seen this?
Nope.
Of course not.
I did, but stupid football pushed it off the end of my TiVo, so I had to watch the rest of it on CBS's, or whatever network it is, their terrible website that made me watch more ads, but I did eventually watch it all.
Wait, I can do that? I can just go to their terrible website?
Yeah, if stupid football pushes the show out and your TiVo doesn't correctly adjust because stupid football ran long, not enough time for TiVo to get updated guide information, then you can watch as much as you can watch on your TiVo, and then I just always assume I can go to the website of the television show and watch the rest of it, and lo and behold, I could, as long as I was willing to watch like 17 of the same commercial before I could move the little playhead up to the point where I left off.
So what do you think about football?
I'm not going to take this bait.
It's not bait. I'm just saying, like, is there a TV schedule or isn't there a TV schedule? I feel like if the football runs long, it should switch to the football overflow channel.
Wow. Anyway, all right, I'm still not going to take this bait. So the feature, it is worth watching, although I don't think any like revelations came from it, excepting apparently Reddit seemed to think that a MacBook that was shown in the background for 4 seconds was some new Mac.
Which it wasn't.
Which supposedly it wasn't.
Or if it was, like, this is the best part of that theory. Let's assume that it was. So, what happens now? Like, let's just stipulate for the purpose of this conversation that there was a different MacBook in the background. Now what happens? Nothing happens. It looked like a Mac. It looked like a laptop. Like, right. It opens, it closes, it has a screen and a keyboard. Can you buy one? Do you know what's in it? Nope. Pointless. All right, go on.
Plus, we already know what they're doing. Like, look, Skylake is coming out in the spring/winter/summer/ God knows when. Skylake is coming out soon. It comes with a huge power savings. The Retina MacBook Pro design is going to be about 4 years old by the time it comes out. They're going to take advantage of the power savings, and they're going to make the stupid thing thinner. And it's going to be fine. I'm going to complain about the keyboard and the battery life and the Force Touch trackpad, then I'll end up buying one, and they're going to be the same laptops we have now, but thinner and cooler looking and maybe in space gray and gold.
Or not. Or they could have amazing features but none of them would be visible on the screen. It looks like a laptop. It's a screen and a keyboard and a trackpad. Like, I just like to, just arguing about it is like, I will agree right now that was a brand new unreleased product in the background, and now what happens? Do we just sit here and smile? Like, I don't even understand. Anyway, go on, Casey. We interrupted you.
Yeah, so there wasn't that much that I thought was really remarkable about the piece, but I thought we should at least note that 2/3 of us have seen it. The one thing that I thought was really interesting was Dan Riccio saying, and I'm going to butcher the quote because I don't have it in front of me, even 1/10 of a millimeter of thickness is sacred to us. And this was with regard to the MacBook One, but probably pretty telling about Apple's attitude about these sorts of things in general. So that's a thing. That's a thing that we've been lamenting for a while. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that.
Well, the quote that stuck out to me was when they were talking to Johnny Ive, and he was getting into his Johnny Ive mode, where he is very passionate about things. And I think the question was, something about, like, did you feel like that Apple could become complacent or insular or something like that? And his answer was basically, like, I like all the things in this. These are answers that anyone who follows Apple has heard before, just repeated in a new context. And it was the Johnny Ive answer from his folio, which I believe is the truth. It's not like BS. It's just that he has to answer the same questions a million times, like every famous person has to. And his answer to this one is, we're not really looking at we're not satisfied with what we do. Like, so we're not going to be like, oh, just sort of, lean back and just phone it in or whatever. And we're not comparing ourselves to what else is out there and other people's products. What we're comparing ourselves to is always this ideal, this perfection that we have in our own mind. So we're chasing perfection, our own internal, intrinsic motivation, the ideal that we have in our mind, and that's what we're chasing. And I believe that because it shows in their products that seem to be chasing some ideal that is inside their minds and don't involve certainly too many looks at what other people are doing, which is fine, but also maybe not too many looks at how people use these things in the real world. Like his answer makes sense, but it hinges entirely on what is that ideal that you're chasing. And as articulated through many white background movies over many years, the ideal that Johnny Ive has always said that he's chasing has good and bad aspects of it. The good one is like it has to look obvious. It has to seem like it's not designed. It shouldn't, it shouldn't be designed for design's sake. But we can see in the products that he makes that he favors simplicity and symmetry and purity and beauty, and it can be argued that those things... Well, yeah. And it can be argued that those things have a psychological effect on the users of products that it benefits their bottom line, but there are practical considerations as well. And the balance between chasing that ideal that again, may be beneficial to the company, but may not be beneficial to the product, and also doing things that you kind of have to do, whether it's more reliable strain relief on cables or more grippy surfaces for things, or, thickness and battery life and all that other stuff. I haven't seen a lot of interviews where that balance has been brought up and really pursued. And I'm not expecting, like in 60 Minutes interview, basically it's going to be people if you follow Apple a lot, it's going to be people you've seen before being asked questions they've been asked 1,000 times. You've seen them be asked these questions 1,000 times, and you know what their answers are going to be because you've heard them give the same answer 1,000 times. They dotted each one of them, like labor practices, parking money overseas, popularity of products, secrecy, the new Apple campus. I mean, there's just nothing new there. But it is interesting that you get to come in the lab and see the tables draped with stuff, and you get to see our milling machine running and whatever, you can peek at it in that way. And it's interesting to see that people give the same answers and see if they change. But what I always want is, I think what we all want as people who are either on or listening to this program is deeper questions. I think Gruber's interview with Schiller pursued this a little bit on the whole, I forget what he was talking about then. Maybe he was also talking about battery life, or maybe it was developer relations. But anyway, to pursue, to have follow-ups, to dig a little bit, to bring up this, because I'm sure Johnny Ive, it's not like this is news to Johnny Ive. He knows about the balance between, practical features. I'm sure all the engineering people in the manufacturer are always telling him, practically speaking, you need to do this. And he's like, no, can we figure out a way to do this? That's why he was talking about, fractions of millimeters. It's a tension between what can be done, what is able to be manufactured, what is economical, what is beautiful, what is ergonomic. Is there something that's both beautiful and ergonomic and obvious and durable and stays beautiful for a long time? That's what design is all about. I would love to hear an in-depth discussion with Johnny Ive just about those trade-offs, about how he figures out where that balance is. Not in vague terms, but getting into specifics, because that, I think, is the most interesting thing about design. And Johnny Ive never talks about it. Maybe he's never going to, because it's a secrecy type thing. He doesn't want to give you a window into his mind. But if he retired and I could get him on this podcast, I would spend the entire show just trying to figure out how they did that balance, and what factors do we not understand that are involved in this, and are there problems that we see that he doesn't, and other problems that he knows are legitimate issues that we never see and take for granted. And that would be a much more interesting interview than what was on 60 Minutes. But then again, it's 60 Minutes, so what do you expect?
I think my expectations for that were even lower than my expectations for Star Wars.
Why were your expectations low for Star Wars? People had been saying good things about it. The people involved were good. Everyone likes J.J. Abrams. George Lucas wasn't involved. It seemed like your expectations should have been at least middle of the road.
Well, let's just say the last 3 Star Wars movies I saw were not the best.
I know, but there's a whole different set of... Maybe you don't know, but it's a whole different set of people here. The old people are out. It's even bigger than the Eddie Q, Phil Schiller thing. Old people out, new people in.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm like the average consumer. I wasn't really in that world of paying attention to all that stuff. I didn't expect much from it because the last few Star Wars movies I've seen have been terrible.
Nope, they fixed that. They didn't just shuffle things around a little bit. Total complete change of hands, new people in charge entirely.
Everything on the internet comes back to Star Wars these days.
That's why you have to just go see it tomorrow.
Yeah, how are you the one who hasn't seen this? Like somehow Marco has seen it, and I don't understand what's going on today.
Bizarro World.
It is Bizarro World.
It's a Christmas miracle.
This is our Christmas miracle.
Next, you're going to tell me that Hop saw it.
I should have brought him. He would have enjoyed it.
Oh God,
no,
no dogs in theaters.
No, we need a babysitter because we have like a baby now. We're all like old and boring.
I know, but you got family close by. You can make this happen.
Yeah, put your kid in preschool. Actually, the theater I went to an Alamo Draft House, which is like this kind of like hipster theater chain. But I inadvertently booked a baby showing because they do they do like baby okay showings where like they allow people to bring babies, and if they cry, oh well. Tiff was really not happy that I booked this, but it turned out not to matter. There was like one baby in the whole theater that cried like once, but it didn't matter. But that might exist near you if you can find that. That is the kind of hipster thing you would have around that area.
Around me?
Yeah.
No. There's no Alamo Draft House anywhere near here. I think it's like at least an hour away.
Well, at any rate, look at local theaters to see if they have any like baby showings of movies, because I think some theaters are starting to do that now.
I went to a nerd showing. It was great.
What does that mean?
Yeah, what does that include?
It was like only nerds allowed. Either people who are dressed up or people who think seriously about ever dressing up, or people who could conceivably be friends with someone who dresses up. Very respectful nerds. That's how I saw it. It's the only way to do it.
Did they market it that way, or is it just...
No, but it just happens naturally. We congregate.
I clearly am not a card-carrying nerd, because I have no idea when that would be.
If you saw it on the 17th, and especially if you saw it at either the very first showing or like a ridiculously late showing that no insane person would ever go to because you end up getting back to your house at 3 a.m., it's full of nerds. It was the best.
So I guess we're done talking about the 60 Minutes thing then, huh? To be honest, I have nothing else to add. I mean, it was interesting to watch. It's probably worth the 20, 30 minutes of your time. Assuming that you live in the United States, I saw something fly by on Twitter that it's locked down to the U.S. because reasons. But it is worth your time. Don't expect anything monumental. I also watched their, what do they call it? 60 Minutes overtime segments, which were not that particularly interesting nor worthwhile. The one thing I will say is that I was happy to see Angela Ahrendts come out from the shadows. They spoke to her a few times, and I was very impressed with her. I thought she was really, really good, which is what one would expect, given that she was once the CEO.
They did have one. All right, so there were some tidbits in there. Maybe I just don't know about this, but one of the things is they were showing like the model Apple store, like, oh, this is where we tested our ideas for Apple stores. And there was one wall that had a bunch of foliage on it.
Yeah, I noticed that. That was very weird.
And I'm assuming no real Apple store has that. But boy, I would love to see that. Like, they try out all sorts of ideas there, right? I would love to see that idea make it out of the model and be, just go into the Apple store and like have one wall, have a bunch of green vines hanging down it. And also the ones where like they had cases and you like the case was the pull on the thing. Lots of wacky ideas there. So that was interesting to see for 2 seconds. And the other reason to watch it, this will make you simultaneously angry about 60 Minutes, but interested in seeing this, is you get to see Tim Cook get fired up about Apple keeping their money overseas and our stupid tax laws and labor practices and stuff. He gets kind of angry.
Sounds like a fun time.
Not angry, but like, so they ask him the same questions you always ask him, and they don't like. He probably gave like very substantial, thorough answers to them. We've heard him give those answers before, like on Apple's earnings calls and the things he has for the meetings he has for stockholders and everything. But in 60 Minutes, you get 3 sentences that they cut out of your big, long, comprehensive answer. And they're the 3 sentences when Tim Cook is the angriest, and they don't explain anything, and then they move on to the next topic. So it was really garbage from a perspective of like giving insight to anybody who doesn't know about these issues. All you get the idea is that we say this leading question, Apple angrily denies it. I don't know what the truth is. Not enough information. Now it's time to ask about something else. But it was interesting to see Tim Cook leaning forward in his chair and getting probably the most sort of worked up I'd ever seen him in a public scenario like that. I also would have loved to have heard what Steve Jobs would have said to those same things. I think he would have had his smirk, more of a smirk and less of an earnest sort of anger. Either way, there was no information, like you couldn't draw any conclusions from that. Like Tim Cook, I'm sure, gave a good answer, but 60 Minutes just is not going to air it, which is a real shame.
I would love to see you interviewed on 60 Minutes, John, and to just see like how the heck they would edit that.
That's the word. I feel for those guys, because they're getting interviewed for like, half an hour, 20 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, and they're going to take literally 5 sentences, and that's what they're going to air. 5 sentences, 5 of the most dramatic sounding sentences with no surrounding context, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can't explain yourself before. You can't explain yourself. It's like they're just going to pull them out, and that's what people are going to see, and just. Like, why would they even agree to it? Why would they agree to be it? Because they have no control over what those sentences are. I don't like it.
No, I mean, this is why I haven't rushed to watch it, because I figured, like, TV interviews are so low density. I feel like, there's so little content in them. There's so much padding and time wasting in them. There's no smart speed. And it's just like,
wow.
It's just so low density.
There is a MyTivo.
Oh, yeah, of course there is. Yeah, Simpsons did it and Opera did it first. Okay. We are also sponsored this week by Harry's. Go to harrys.com and use the promo code ATP to save $5 off your first purchase. Harry's offers high-quality razors and razor blades for a fraction of the price of the big razor brands. They make their own blades from their own factory in Germany. These are high-quality, high-performing German blades crafted by shaving experts, giving you a better shave that respects your face and your wallet. They offer factory direct pricing at a fraction of the big brand's prices. Harry's blades are about half the price of what you'd expect to pay for something like a Gillette Fusion, for instance, which I would say, in my experience, is the most directly comparable blade to the Harry's blade cartridges. I would say they're very, very similar to Gillette Fusion in shave quality. Way better designs for the handles and the products and the cream and everything like that. They have this great starter set. They have $15 will get you a razor, moisturizing shave cream or gel, and 3 razor blade cartridges. When you need more blades, they're just $2 each or less. So an 8-pack is just $15. A 16-pack is just $25. And these are not double-edged safety blades. These are the full razor blade cartridges. There's 5 blades in the cartridge, very similar to the Gillette Fusion if you're used to that. Nice, easy-to-use, disposable cartridges that are just really good quality for the price. An 8-pack of blades is just $15. A 16-pack is just $25. Now, a 16-pack of Fusion blades is $56. That's more than double as much as what Harry's charges for what I would say, as I said, is a very comparable blade. And again, Harry's gives you way better designs, way classier looks, way better handles, much better cream and gel and everything else to go with it. And great service. You don't have to go to a drugstore. You just order it online, and it comes to your door. Check it out today. Go to harrys.com. Use promo code ATP to get $5 off your first purchase. You can get a starter set today that includes a handle, 3 blades, and shaving cream for just $15 shipped right to your door. harrys.com, promo code ATP. Thanks a lot to Harry's for sponsoring our show once again.
So, a long time ago, in a galaxy far... No, a long time ago, we wanted to talk about something that came out of nowhere, and it's a new service, product, company, startup. It's a new thing, and it's called Upthere, and it has a lot of ex-Apple people in it. And John, I think this was kind of your baby, so what do you want to tell us about Upthere?
Yeah, Bertrand Serlet used to be in charge of Apple software stuff, in charge of OS X and everything, back before there was iOS, and even a little bit after, I think. And he retired from Apple a while ago. That's when Craig Federighi took over, basically. And he disappeared to, I don't know, go on vacation and do whatever he wanted to do. But pretty quickly after he left Apple, there were rumblings like, oh, what's Bertrand's next thing? I guess you don't ever really leave. I guess you would just leave and become I don't know, a venture capitalist or support other technology things. Anyway, the rumor was that he was involved in some kind of startup, and they were doing something having to do with computers, and that's all anybody knew about it. I didn't pay too much attention to it. I figured he'll surface at some point. And he did surface a couple months back with this company called Upthere. And when I went to their website at first, it was pretty impenetrable because they say, if you had a cloud to butt translation on your web browser, it was a lot of butts going on here. It was they're doing something in the cloud and there are computers, and it's well, what is different about this company? It seemed like they were saying they were going to store a bunch of your stuff on their servers so you wouldn't have to store it on yours.
Yeah, honestly, I have looked at this. It's been in the show notes for 2 months. I've looked at this every so often before the show, and I cannot figure out what it is and why I need to care about it.
Yeah, and the quote I pulled from the CEO, who is not Bertrand Serlet, by the way, he's just one of the founders, but the CEO, Roger Bodamer, says, we'd like the word backup to vanish from the dictionary. We built a consumer cloud from the ground up. Oh, here we go. We questioned everything, literally. We experimented a lot. We want the cloud to be the primary place for your data. So this is a fairly succinct summary. The whole idea is like, it's kind of like a Chromebook. You don't back up a Chromebook because there's nothing on it that isn't already on Google servers somewhere, right? And up there, the whole idea is don't worry about what's on your phone or on your Mac or wherever you want it to be. That's just like a local cache. That's not where the stuff is. Chuck your phone into the ocean. Who cares? There was nothing on it anyway. You're fine. All your stuff is up there in the cloud. And the bit from here is like, from the second quote is we experimented a lot. They've been in stealth mode, as they say, for a long time. So who knows what they've been doing behind the scenes. But they do have a beta program, and I'm on the beta, and it's a public beta program. You just sign up for it. And they have a couple of applications. There's a Mac application, and there's an iOS application. Those are the ones I use. And you launch them, and it's like, hey, we're this cloud thing. Sign up. They already have two-factor authentication, which I thought was really nice. Out of the gate, because if you're going to be a cloud thing, you don't add that like in your 5th year or something. It's important enough to have it now. And then it wants you to put stuff into their cloud. I'm like, all right, well, they have like an easy button press. It's like, hey, do you want to put your photos library into the cloud? And it's my photos library, not like the family one. So my photos library only has like 10,000 photos in it or something. So I'm like, sure, here you go. Take those, a lot of this is going on. I'm just trusting Bertrand Serlet. This is not a shady company or whatever. And you can upload it and you can drag files into it or whatever, just like whatever, fine. So I told it to pull up my photos library and just let it do its thing. And then it eventually uploaded my photos library. And then on the iOS application, I can go and I can browse through all of my photos in my photos library. Again, only like 10,000 or so. There was some weirdness in that to get the phone totally synced, like I uploaded them from my Mac, and then to get the phone totally synced, the best way to do it was to have the phone in the application launched as like an option that says don't let your phone go to sleep when the application is in the foreground, because I guess it uploads better or faster when the application is running and in the foreground. And I didn't even know that was an option, but apparently it is. But anyway, they got everything uploaded there. They have a camera application as well, which is kind of getting more into how this is supposed to work. It's a camera for your phone, and you launch this application instead of launching Apple's camera application. You take pictures, but instead of the pictures going onto your phone, the pictures go directly into the cloud. And the pitch there is you'll never fill your phone with pictures, and that's a real thing that a lot of people who have smartphones do, is they take pictures, and then they fill up their phone. And iOS storage management is such that there's not a real easy way out of that without, you need to have an iCloud photo library. Oh, do you have that turned on? Do you have a Mac? And the up there thing is we're never going to fill your phone because we don't put the pictures in your phone. You take the pictures and we immediately upload them. Now, obviously, everything about up there is predicated on you having a network connection, and that network connection being somewhat reliable and somewhat, having a reasonable amount of bandwidth. So it's a forward-looking play where it's like the future is not going to be doing stuff locally and then figuring out how to sync it. The future is going to be pushing everything up. And that's a pretty safe bet. What it all comes down to, though, with this, that's why everyone hears about this and reads the website and thinks that it's like, well, whatever, you're like uploading stuff to a server somewhere. Who cares? What it all comes down to is execution. How well does it upload stuff to the server? Does the sync ever get stuck? Can I actually scroll through all 10,000 of my pictures? How long does it take for the thumbnails to load? And I don't know what exactly they're doing tech-wise, because the website is not illuminating. I would imagine, since they've been in stealth mode a really long time, what they're trying to do is come up with a better interface than, like, the application uses POSIX APIs to do synchronous I/O to your local disk, and then some daemon process wanders the file system and like a Dropbox or whatever and finds things and opens an HTTP connection and shoves the files one at a time to our servers. Like, that's the old way of doing things. I don't know if they're doing exactly that, or if they, I'm imagining sort of some more interesting abstractions where instead of going through a POSIX file I/O API, they have their own file I/O API that does intelligent things like better support for streaming and batching of multiple things, and handling failures better, and being asynchronous instead of synchronous by default, and being multi-threaded, and being able to use multiple connections, and handling, that's what I'm imagining is behind the scenes. But the bottom line is, it uploaded all my pictures, and when I scroll through them, I can scroll through all of them, and the thumbnails load, and pretty fast, and when you go to the iOS usage screen to see how much disk space the Upthere applications are taking up, it's like nothing. It's like 90 megabytes. So I think it really is streaming all this stuff in real time from the cloud, as they say. And like the pitch on their website is storing our entire digital lives, photos, video, music, and documents in a single place that is always accessible, growing, evolving, and ready to share. Their sharing stuff is even better than Apple's. Already it's better than Apple's. You can make like something they call a loop, where you can have multiple people putting their photos into a single bucket, right? And so, like, you know, you could do that with a family photo library where the whole family could have camera applications, and every picture they take could go into one giant shared thing where people can contribute. And it's like, it just seems like a forward-looking way to do everything. And is the implementation good just because they have 5 beta testers and all 5 of us are connected to their super fast servers, and it will be terrible when there's a million people? Could this scale to be the size of like Apple Music or iCloud Photo Library? I have no idea. All I know is that whatever the heck they're doing, it's working, and Apple should buy them because it's better than everything Apple is doing. Even though there aren't a lot of features yet, I'm just going to be like, did it upload my pictures? Yes. Can I see them all? Yes. Can I scroll through them quickly? Yes. Is it storing any files on my phone? Not as far as I can tell. So it does what it says on the tin, and it's pretty impressive.
I have been on the beta for like a week or two now. Because I didn't get a clear read on what the intention is for the app. In fact, you describing it has given me a much better understanding than the very little bit of documentation I read. I didn't really know what to make of it. In like the Mac app, it has some tabs on the left. It has Flow, which I guess is just kind of like a newsfeed sort of thing. It has photos and videos, music, and documents. And it's not, I mean, I understand what those words mean. I understand that it's presumably I'm supposed to just start chucking things in these buckets, but it wasn't entirely clear to me what the long-term play is here, and I understand that a lot better. It seems to work well, like you said. I mean, I haven't really tried much with it, but there's plenty of stuff there, and it certainly is streaming things from the cloud, like you said, very quickly. So initial impressions by me were confusion, but happy confusion, if such a thing exists. Now that I've heard you talk about it, I'm very interested to play with the iOS app, which I had never bothered to download. Maybe that was half my problem. Very interested to play with that and see how it goes. But it wouldn't surprise me if this was in some ways just an acquisition play to see if Apple is feeling desperate to get away from web objects and hire a team that can solve this problem once and for all.
Well, presumably, like, that it's a tech play, that it's not just that they've done, like I said, that they're doing exactly the same thing everyone else is doing, you just using HTTP connections with standard libraries and doing local file I/O and just, like, doing that slightly better than, 1% better than everyone else. It seems like the only reason this could ever be a startup is someone has some good ideas about how to abstract the file system and the network in a way that accounts for the modern world, that it is not like backward looking, like to some degree, like even Dropbox is, that it's just a bunch of local files on disk, and that there's this other process that watches them and moves them up and down. When I think about like the thumbnails, like surely it is not loading each of those thumbnails one at a time. Surely it is either chunking them up or streaming them down, or like it's not making a new connection for everyone. Definitely, right? How is it dealing with like the size of the thumbnails and like just and how is it keeping up with my scrolling and knowing which things it wants to load and stuff like that? And I mean, right now, like, it's a beta, whatever. Like, I'm not putting nothing is only in up there, because that would be ridiculous. Like my entire, photo library, they're really smart to say there's a one button press. You launch the thing, it's like, do you want me to upload your photo library? All right. I mean, you don't use photos, so you didn't see that button or it wouldn't be useful to you. But for me, I'm like, fine, go ahead. Because it's just reading from the photos library, and it keeps in sync with it and everything too. And same thing when I take photos with the regular Apple camera app, it, like a million other apps, like remember the Dropbox camera app or whatever, will try to see when you take pictures with your photo app, and it'll upload those. What I'm basically using it now as a toy to play with every once in a while to see what the performance is like and try to figure out what the heck they're actually doing behind the scenes. And yet another free backup for all of my photos. The small photo library, not the big one. I thought about signing up my wife for it and trying to put the big library up to the thing to see if it would choke on that, because 10,000 is not that big of a challenge. What about 60 or 70,000? Now, and maybe I'll do this as a torture test, but I would never put anything only in up there. And, business model, I don't know, it's all free in beta, so who knows what they would charge for this stuff. So it's still a big question mark.
Pricing is a pretty big question mark, though. Like that matters a lot to how many people will even bother trying to adopt it in the first place. Because photo libraries can be quite big. And if once you start talking about like storing all of my stuff up there, or all of my documents, or even many of my documents, plus all my photos, plus other kinds of media, like that gets very big very quickly, especially if you have any video shooting.
But their explanation and the people behind it make you think like obviously they would take that into account. That their whole idea is that the old way of doing things, the way that everybody else is doing them, was sort of using 80s and 90s tech to solve like a problem that's really in the future for this future world where everybody has ubiquitous fast connections, which is, getting closer every day. That they are coming at it from that perspective. So, they must have smart solutions for not just the API and how to write applications into this backend, but how the backend works, how it's hosted, how it's scaled, how, what the economics are, how much does it cost for us to host X amount of data? Can we undercut everyone else's prices by using better technology because we can more efficiently store? Like they don't tell you, it's their secret, whatever. I have no idea what they're doing behind the scenes, but all I can look at is the front end, and the front end seems to work more smoothly than every other front end I've tried, whether it be Dropbox or the Microsoft's OneDrive thing or Google Drive, or like we've all tried all these different things. What was that one? Bitcasa. There's been so many different services that are like this. And, there are good ones. I use Dropbox all the time. Like they're not bad, but this impressed me with just how sort of no nonsense and smooth it is, and how I don't even know how they're doing it. How is it that I'm able to scroll through 10,000 photos and the thumbnails, like they're not there instantly. There's little white squares initially, but they come in pretty fast. Whole screens full of thumbnails. I have no idea how it's doing that, but it's pretty impressive.
Assuming that this actually, becomes a thing and launches to the public with some kind of business model or something, would you, obviously they don't want to be your cloud backup service. They want to be your primary storage, and possibly your only storage, therefore, because is there even an easy way to like maintain a local copy of everything, or do they really not want you to do that?
Well, that's what I'm getting at. I don't know, like maybe that's their long-term play, obviously, but right now they are perfectly willing to be omnivorous. They will pull in content and say, like, you don't have to manually say, oh, I took some new photos with my phone. Like every time you launch the app, it will sync up any new photos you've taken. Anytime I add anything to my phone, like I'm just using photos. I'm not using Upthere at this point, but Upthere is every time I launch it is pulling all that stuff in. So, it's a great sort of on-ramp. Like they want to make it easiest for people to launch this app and say, we know you have your stuff elsewhere, and probably you want to keep your stuff elsewhere, and probably you're only going to deal with elsewhere, but we're here too. And they would have to sort of get you into the flow by saying, we're cheaper than your other hosting, we're more reliable than photos, eventually become trustworthy. I mean, realistically speaking, they'll probably be bought by somebody before any of this happens, but because the tech does look impressive. But I don't see any reason why what you're getting at, I think, is like, would you ever like put your stuff in there?
Right, like would you trust it as primary storage? Because they're trying to get rid of backups. I don't know that I could do that.
Well, yeah, I mean, like it's aspirational. Like obviously, no, you can't get rid of backups because if a meteor hits your data center, I need my stuff. Right, so I always have my online backups and my time machine and my clone, and it's the question of, can you have local only copies? Well, yeah, if I just keep using photos and I have one of the Macs set to always have local copies of the photos, and I have 17 backups of that, including online, like that's the way I would continue to go. But I could see, for example, not enabling the thing that lets you, whatever it is, iCloud photo library that lets you see your entire library on your phone because it's too onerous, or maybe enabling it but never going to it. Like, for example, when someone says, I like having access to the whole photo library. Someone asks a question like, what did one of your kids look like when he was 3 years old, right? I like being able to launch a thing on a phone and go to the year and say, I have access to every single one of my pictures here. But it's slower to do that with iCloud Photo Library than it is to do that with Upthere. Just because it is. Like, I can go to the year, I can launch it faster, the thing will load faster, and, that's a win for me if that takes over that role where I no longer go to Photos to look at my photos. I just go to Upthere because the same things are in both places, and it has nothing to do with backups or whatever. It's a long road from there to the aspirational goal of like, hey, we keep all your stuff, and that's where. But I truly believe in that end state, not the end of backups, but maybe the end of backups for regular people, like where they can get it to the point where it's reliable and redundant enough that you won't be up. Because think about it now, you're obsessing with people like, have you ever backed up your phone? Have you enabled iCloud Photo Library? If I run over your phone with the car or chuck it into the ocean, did you just lose the pictures of your infant child who's now 5 years old because you've never emptied your phone before? The whole problem of filling your phone with photos, like all those concerns I would like to be addressed and go away. And I think Android is better at addressing them now, and Apple's catching up with the iCloud Photo Library, and Upthere is trying to say we're way out here at the extreme at where you guys want to be. I'm just looking at it as a competition between implementations, really, at this point, and their implementation looks pretty good.
Thanks a lot to our 3 sponsors this week, Linode, Fracture, and Harry's, and we'll see you next week.
Now the show is over, they didn't even mean to begin, 'cause it was accidental. Oh, it was accidental. John didn't do any research, Marco and Casey wouldn't let him, 'cause it was accidental. Oh, it was accidental. And you can find the show notes at atp.fm. And if you're into Twitter, you can follow them at CASEYLISS. So that's Casey Liss, MARCOARMENT, Marco Arment, SIRAC, USA Syracuse. It's accidental. They didn't mean to. Accidental. Tech podcast so long.
I do love the Cloud to Butt plugin.
That is quite good.
It's magical. You spent, well, maybe you didn't spend any money this week, Marco, but you committed yourself to spending some money sometime soon. You want to tell us about that?
I spent some. There's a deposit.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So I ordered a Tesla, and you lost the bet.
I know. I knew already that I lost the bet, but nobody else did. The bet was, and the winnings were just bragging rights. The bet was that Marco would absolutely get the performance version of whatever Tesla that he ended up buying, and that's because Marco doesn't typically know how to do halfway on anything. As it turns out, I lost the bet, and you did not get a P90D or a P90 no D or whatever it is. I forget the different permutations. What did you end up getting, though? Why don't you run through the setup with us?
I got the 90D. So it is approximately M5 speed and maximum range available in a Tesla today. It's white because it's the only color that cars can be in.
Mm-hmm.
No, just kidding. It's red. This is going to be my first non-dark colored car in a long ever, really, and my first non-black car in a decade at least. So red Tesla 90D is coming in late March when my lease is up, but I ordered it now to take advantage of some discounts they were running before the end of the year.
What wheels did you get?
The 19 Silver Cyclone wheels. I know in the pictures, so on red you can argue that the dark colored wheels would probably look better, and in pictures they do. First of all, I think up close they look a little bit flat, like they almost look like painted plastic. I know they're not, but just like the finish on them is kind of like flat and a little bit dull. They also, because it is just like, a thin color coating on top of a regular, I don't know, what are these made out of? Steel, aluminum? What are they usually made out of? What metal?
Depends.
Anyway, so whatever metal it is, probably aluminum, the dark colored wheels, any kind of curb rash, any wear, any scratch whatsoever on them, that bright colored metal below it just shines right through, and you can see it from a mile away. And sure enough, like whenever I'd be at a Tesla dealer looking at these things, there would often be customer cars parked in the lot, like just getting serviced, or people visiting to, I don't know, look at new Teslas or whatever. And every car I saw in person that was a customer-owned car that had dark wheels on it had very visible scratches on them. Those
people can't just drive. I went past a black Model S today with the big dark colored wheels at the supermarket. Red brake calipers too, I think, and there were no scratches on them.
Yeah, if it has the red calipers, that is a P model. It was tempting to spend $20,000 extra just for red calipers, but I did not. It wasn't really tempting.
Well, you get a lot more than red calipers, but point noted.
Well, but honestly, so you get the red calipers and you get the faster rear engine, because it has the D models have the two engines. The rear engine is faster, but those are actually the only two differences. Plus, you get less range. But like the suspension is all the same. Like everything else about the car is the same. I've confirmed this with multiple people from Tesla. That they always say the same thing. In my drive, anecdotally, it certainly seems that way. The only thing different is the engine, the red calipers, and you get the option for a spoiler on the back that I hate.
So you got red, you got the 19-inch Silver Cyclone wheels. What other options? You said 90D.
Yeah, 90D, black interior, sunroof. I got autopilot, range upgrade, premium interior, the big next-gen seats. I did not get the smart air suspension. I was going to, and I did some reading and did some research, and it sounds like the air suspension really does make the car feel more like a Lexus, like a cushier, softer ride. And I did not think that was even what I wanted, let alone worth $2,500 extra on the purchase price. Even though I'm leasing it, but it's still I would pay probably half that. So I didn't get smart air suspension because I want a more firm, sporty ride, and I did not get the ultra high fidelity sound because I did a back-to-back test of those in the showroom and could tell very little difference in the two sound systems, and neither of them sounded great to me. Like they both sounded honestly pretty mediocre. So I figured might as well not spend extra money on mediocrity. I did get the Sub-Zero weather package because I live in a place with real seasons, and I did not get the rear-facing seats because for the next 3 years that this lease will cover, my wife and I decided that we would probably not be comfortable with our kid in those seats during this age period by enough to make it worth getting them for an extra $3,000.
What did you get as the interior trim, like accent? You can get carbon fiber looking, or
That was actually a tough call. The carbon fiber looks decent, but kind of like hurt my eyes. And Tiff's opinion here matters a lot because she, as the passenger, usually while I'm driving, she sees the trim way more than I do because there's this big strip right in front of the passenger side, and on the driver's side, you don't really see much of it. So she didn't care for the carbon fiber, so that was fine. The two woods, they just have basically a glossy and a matte wood. I didn't like the look of the matte, so I was basically deciding between the glossy wood and the piano black. The piano black, my current car has that. I know I like it. It is very nice. That being said, it shows fingerprints and scratches like crazy. But I decided ultimately I would rather have fingerprinted piano black trim because I just like it better. I would rather have that than perfect glossy wood trim.
You stoked?
I am, yeah. I'm actually looking forward to something new. I mean, I mentioned before, I've loved having the M5. It's been great. I do, however, miss all-wheel drive. Yes, I know they're adding it to the next model, but it isn't there now. I also mentioned earlier that I really want a quieter car. BMW does not currently sell a quieter car that has all-wheel drive, that has a transmission that I would tolerate. Except maybe the... Is 335 X-Drive still available in stick?
I don't know. Well, it's a 340 now anyway, but I honestly don't know. I would think not.
I think it might be. That would probably be the only option. The 5 Series is totally out because the 5 Series you can't get a stick with all-wheel drive if at all anymore, and you can't get a DCT on any of the 5 Series. And I will not drive the Sport Auto. Yes, I've driven it, and no, it is not the same. So yeah, the Tesla is in some ways it's not as good as the M5. And I'm not expecting it to match it in the luxury feel features. The BMW interior is more luxurious feeling, no question. I'm very much going to miss the heads-up display and the top-down parking camera.
That thing is the best. Real-time follow-up, you can get a 340i X-Drive with a manual transmission.
Okay, so that is the only other car BMW makes that I would consider getting right now out of the new lineup, but that also, I really don't like the F30 3 Series, honestly. I don't like it. I don't like the steering system. I don't really care for the way it looks, and I think the interior has actually gotten lower quality in certain ways than the previous 3 Series. And the lack of the all button on the climate control just kills me.
Yeah, that is really insane.
I don't know why you're not shopping Mercedes at this point. Neither one of you ever talk about Mercedes, but Marco just bought a Tesla. He's now safely within the Mercedes, market.
I did on a recent trip. I rented a Mercedes because I was on a trip about a year ago and I had to rent a car, and I rented is it the E-Class, their version of the 5 Series, the middle one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I rented an E something. It was like the V6 roughly 300 horsepower, like basically their version of 335 or the 535.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but yeah.
Anyway, so I rented that and I drove it for a few days, and it was a really nice driving car, but definitely not for me overall. Like I think first of all, I don't care for Mercedes' designs very much. I think they're a little bit dated for me.
Whoa. When you say that, you mean exterior design?
Yes.
Oh, see, I think they've gotten pretty lately. Although, that being said, the brand new ones are very bubbly, and I'm not as into that. But up until about this year or the year prior, there was like a 5-year stretch where they went from really, really, really boring to actually very pretty. But for me, it's a non-starter because they don't believe in 3 pedals.
I know, but he doesn't have 3 pedals anymore anyway, and he hasn't for 2 cars. I understand. But I feel like a Mercedes S-Class is like, when you come back from your electric hangover, you should look at the S-Class, because by then the S-Class might be electric.
It might be, I don't know, but I really don't care for the Mercedes media system.
Well, those change every year.
No, they do not. Not Mercedes.
Well, every 5 years, whatever. But yeah, no, they're all terrible. I understand.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to be Tesla forever. I'm saying I'm going to be Tesla for the next 3 years, because this is one of the reasons I lease cars. But so I'm looking forward to trying something new, to trying electric, to it being truly different, and honestly, as I said when I drove them, to it really feeling modern, really feeling like today, and in 3 years, when I have to choose my next vehicle, whether I get another Tesla or something else, by that time there will probably be more all electric options or more compelling electric options from the other luxury brands. Right now, there really isn't much.
There will definitely be, yeah. They've all got the Tesla fighters in the works.
Yeah, like that Porsche concept looks really nice, honestly. I don't know if that would pan out into something, and God knows how much it'll cost if it does, but it does look really nice on paper, at least. We'll see what happens with Mercedes and BMW and Audi and even Acura, anybody else. We'll see what happens in their electric department. Right now, as I have to make a decision right now, Tesla is by far my favorite option of what's available right now.
Well, I'm excited for you. This should be really awesome. It's going to be sad to not have you personally in the BMW family anymore, but at least your family will still be a BMW family.
Don't worry. I'm sure at some point we'll be back, to be honest. Like, there is a lot about the way BMW does things that I do prefer. I do prefer not having a giant touchscreen, I think. We'll see what happens when I get it. But I do think I'm going to prefer still having hardware knobs to giant touchscreens if given the choice. I do certainly like a heads-up display, and I do like the BMW quality interior that's in the 5 Series. So maybe eventually there will be an all-electric 5 Series that will be really compelling. That will be nice to me. Because that will eliminate the problem I have with the regular 5 Series of having a transmission I hate. If they can move to not having a transmission, that does solve the problem. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Did you ask the Tesla people if the Model S is designed for short trips? Can this get egg salad, or is it not designed for that?
Chicken salad, John.
Sorry, chicken salad. I'm thinking with my stomach. I prefer egg salad.
Why? What?
Yeah.
This is worse than the Windows thing. What?
I mean, I'm not against chicken salad. I like chicken salad, but my go-to was I would get a cinnamon raisin bagel with egg salad on it, wrapped up in wax paper, and then cut it in half through the wax paper, as is proper. Okay,
there are so many things wrong with this.
Concur.
First of all, a cinnamon raisin bagel does not belong with any of the salads. That is an illegal combination.
You are wrong. You are so wrong about that. You don't know what you're missing.
John, you're out of your mind.
Second of all, egg salad only belongs on bread, not bagels, because it is such a soft filling that you bite into a bagel and it squeezes out.
No, I understand the difficulties. The magic is getting that right. It seems like it shouldn't work. It seems like it should be a disaster that you would bite down and that all it would do is cause the bagel to choose the egg salad shooting out the side and you would just be left with an empty bagel. But no, it can be done. We have the technology.
Oh my God.
The wax paper is key. You know the wax paper. I don't know if your local delis do that, but you know the wax paper thing?
It holds it in during cutting, basically.
Right, but if they wrap it really tightly and hold it in during cutting, and you can sort of move the wax paper back and eat it, and it won't come shooting out the sides. And if the bagel is fresh and it's not like a stale, big, hard brick type thing, you can actually bite it and not lose all of your egg salad. It's a delicate balance, I understand. This is. I haven't had a good one of those. I don't know in how many decades. Because
it's a terrible concept.
no,
Agreed.
It's a great concept, and you don't know this. Here's a little advanced technique for you with if you want to make a bagel sandwich at home. For example, say you want to have peanut butter and jelly on a toasted bagel, which is fabulous, by the way.
No, I was about to say, like, because I in high school I worked at a bagel shop, and it was always a disaster whenever somebody would order peanut butter and jelly on a bagel, because that squeezes out like crazy.
I know. So let me. I'm going to give you some tips here. Peanut butter and jelly on a toasted bagel at home. How can you possibly make that work? It seems like it shouldn't work at all, right?
You don't.
No, you do. We have ways. All right. So you toast the bagel, and then one half of it you sort of dig a trench for the jelly to go in. You don't pull out all the insides, leaving just the shell, but you dig a trench. Then you put the jelly in the trench. The peanut butter.
Is that legal?
The peanut butter will stay on its own for the most part. Then you assemble it. You can eat that sandwich. Nothing will squirt out the sides. If assembled correctly, nothing will squirt out the sides, and what you have is a toasted peanut butter and jelly bagel sandwich. The things I do with bagels, I understand. These are advanced techniques.
Advanced?
That I'm not sure that counts, first of all.
God.
Oh, it counts. It counts. You can do that with tuna as well. When I put tuna on a bagel, it's key to hollow out some part of it. And you eat the part that you take out. It's not like you're just throwing it away. The trick is not take so much out of it that you're just basically left with just a crust, right? You have to take out just the right amount.
Well, tuna has enough. Tuna is very similar to chicken salad in texture. Like, it has enough strength internally to tolerate bagel usage.
Yeah, but you can get more. You can get more in there. Anyway, you don't always have to do it with tuna. You're right. It can hold together more like chicken salad.
I like tuna salad, and I like bagels, and I like bagels with tuna or chicken salad on them. At no point have I ever had a bagel with tuna salad or chicken salad and thought, I need to find ways to shove more of it in here.
Oh, well, I've thought that.
Because you can fit a lot in the regular way.
Yeah. It really depends on how stiff your mixture is,
This is the worst. John.
Anyway, these are all good things, and I'm getting hungry even thinking about them.
You're so wrong. You're so wrong.
What am I wrong about? What are you talking about? These are all delicious things. These are all delicious things that you can make in your own home.
These are terrible. They're terrible things. No.
Yeah, everything you've just said has been wrong.
Yeah, I concur.
No. First of all, I'm not going to take any input about what's proper way to eat bagels from someone who lives in Virginia. Second of all, I'm also not going to take that input from somebody who just recently moved to New York.
Oh, which one of us is in New York right now? Oh.
Recently moved to New York.
Yeah, like 8 years ago.
Did not grow up there.
Now, what? Oh,
No, I already got
egg salad. I can't get past.
Are you against egg salad? Or is this some anti-egg salad? Egg salad is delicious.
In general, I think I am against it, and I've eaten a lot of egg salad in my life.
Oh, then now the truth comes out. Against egg salad. Margo Arment against egg salad, bad for America.
This is why I can't blog anymore. No,
That's right. Go ahead. You write your blog against egg salad. You'll see what happens.
No, see, to me, egg salad is not worth it when you have other options that are similar to it. So, like, if all you have in a store is egg salad, fine, I'll eat egg salad. But if right next to it is tuna salad and chicken salad, those are both way better. So I can't think of any context in which I would choose egg salad if chicken salad or tuna salad or cream cheese or any other like sandwich topping were available.
Oh no! I mean, I like all of those things. Those are all good. I feel like you just have to mix it up. You have the same thing every day. Maybe your place makes better chicken salad than they make egg salad, but good egg salad, you cannot turn your nose up at that.
I have never had egg salad that was good enough to overcome decent chicken salad.
Yeah.
Like I've had egg salad where I've tasted it and I'm like, oh yeah, this is fine. But that's like the most I've ever thought about egg salad is it's fine. In other forms, like I love deviled eggs, which are very similar, really. Deviled eggs have a lot of similarities in taste and ingredients to egg salad, just in a different shape and preparation. But I love eggs in other forms. Just egg salad is, it's just so mediocre compared to the other options that it's usually next to.
It's good stuff. If you like eggs, it's good stuff.
Egg salad is the sesame bagel of the salads.
You're going to come out against sesame bagels now? Forget it. Sesame bagels. What do you have against sesame bagels? They are one of the greatest bagels.
What I have against them is similar to what I have against egg salad. It's not worth it when you have better options nearby. So it's like a sesame bagel is fine. I've had many sesame bagels in my life. They're fine.
You're someone who eats chocolate cake for every meal. Why would you have anything else if you're going to have chocolate cake for every meal? You got to have the sesame bagel, man.
John, you have been out of New York far too long. You've lost touch. It's over.
No, I am the only one here who is in touch. You've got you who's in Virginia, and we've got him who's coming from the world outside of bagels, who's only recently been introduced to them. He's trying to find his way.
Which one of us goes to a bagel shop every day in New York? Oh, that's right.
I'm just saying, like, you're coming from Ohio or wherever, just trying to figure out this crazy new world and making it up as you go along. I'm telling you the way it is.
Oh my God! Why would you? Yeah, go get a sesame bagel with egg salad.
Against sesame bagels and against egg salad. This is not a position you want to stake out.
Compare that to an everything bagel with chicken salad, which is right next to those.
So you can't. That's the whole thing. Like, you're gonna have everything on it. You're always gonna have it on every. Not that everything bagels are great, right? But the whole idea that every single time you have it, you have the most, the best topping, the bagel with the most stuff on it. It's like sometimes you got to have. There's a certain place for the poppy seed bagel, the sesame seed bagel. Sometimes you can have the plain bagel. Why would anyone ever have a plain bagel? People do. It happens. Sometimes that's the right combination.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
You didn't. I thought you had turned around by not getting the really expensive Tesla, but you're still getting the everything bagel only with chicken salad because you can't bring yourself to have anything that you consider lesser. But they're not lesser. They're just different.
No, I mean, I have different bagel orders. Like, I love a toasted bagel with butter. And if you're going to have a toasted bagel with butter, everything is a good choice, but so is rye or pumpernickel.
Why would you have rye if you could have everything?
Oh my God.
Doesn't make any sense. Anyway.
Because those things are actually good.
Sesame seed bagels are good.
Like I would say a proper toasted rye bagel with butter is just as good as a toasted everything bagel with butter. But a sesame bagel is like, you have the plain dough, so the dough just tastes like any other plain dough flavored bagel, and the topping is included in everything, and itself has almost no taste.
It's got everything. It's already there. Wait, well, let's try to find some common ground here. Caraway seeds and everything bagels, yes or no?
No, what? Ew.
All right, good. Just making sure that some people want that.
No, everything bagels require 5 things: sesame, poppy, garlic, onion, and salt. If it's missing any of those things, don't leave out the salt, Midwestern people. If it's missing any of those things, it is not a proper everything bagel.
Some people like the caraway seeds. I got to say no to that. That's
Also, some people put sunflower seeds on them, which is illegal.
No, forget about that. It's California people. Just forget.
Yeah, they shove an avocado on there. Ugh.
I can't handle this conversation. John, you're so out of touch. It defies description.
I'm not out of touch. I'm the only one who's in touch. I'm the only one with authentic bagel experience. You up there in Connecticut have got nothing, and Marco is a tourist.
We'll see. Bagel eating world. Email John this week and tell you which of us is right.
There's no bagel eating world. It's not a democracy. It's the people who live in the New York metro area and everybody else. And everyone else is wrong and we are right.
Wait. You don't live in the New York metro area.
I did. I lived there. I'm from there. It will never leave me. You can take the whatever out of New York, complete the saying yourself.
Yeah, but you left it and I'm here.
Mm-hmm. You're upstate.
My God. I can't handle this. I can't.
It's a Christmas miracle.
Oh, God. I hate you, John, so much right now. You're so wrong. This is terrible.
This really is worse than the 90 Windows thing.
I don't know.
I know. I can't believe you come out against sesame bagels. Seriously, there's going to be protesters outside your house.
A sesame bagel with egg salad.
It's terrible.
It's so boring.
No, I don't. Sesame, I was not. See, I have certain. It's like pairing wine with meals.
No, it's not.
That's skill. Yo, yes, it is. Yes, that's where you're wrong. You don't even understand. You don't even know this is a skill that you can have, let alone have the skill.
It's like pairing lightly flavored water.
Pairing the bagel type
God.
with the thing you put on it is a skill.
I agree. I just don't think you have it.
Well, your answer is everything goes on an everything bagel.
Not necessarily.
All right, here. I will fix this. Marco, do you or do you not put lox on a bagel?
Well, I don't like fish and I don't like lox.
So you're already wrong.
But I recognize that
you've ruined my
many
moment.
people love putting lox on bagels. And were I to choose a bagel for lox, everything would be pretty high on the list because I know people like that kind of salty garlicky onion flavor with the lox. I know it's a very common combination.
John, would you do lox on a bagel?
I also don't eat fish. You know that.
Oh, God.
Finally, we agree.
You too. So ignorant.
It's not ignorance. We just don't like fish. That's the way it is.
But I've tried it. I know what I'm missing. And every time I say I don't like fish, for years, Tiff would be like, you just have to have good fish. Everyone would say, oh, you have to have good fish. Same thing, I don't like sushi either. There's some overlap there. And everyone's like, oh, you haven't had good sushi. And eventually, somebody brings me to a place where they say, okay, this is good X thing I don't like. And I try it, and I give it an honest shot, and I hardly ever end up liking it. But I can at least say then, okay, I at least know what I'm missing now. I have confirmed that I honestly don't like this, but I've had the good thing. Maybe I can see why you like it, but I can't see why anybody would ever order a sesame bagel for anything.
That's why I try Marco's coffee when I'm there. Just
like
in case.
It seems like if you were going to get a sesame bagel, you might as well just get plain. Or if you want flavor and stuff, you get in everything.
Can all agree on sesame.
Only you are agreeing on sesame.
Me and the rest of the New York metro area who's not upstate.
The sesame bagel it's like that's like the Dell computer.
Sesame bagel is one of my favorite kind of bagels. Like I like them all.
What do you put on it? So in your expert bagel pairing experience,
things that pair well with sesame. Sesame bagel with butter on it, toasted, is very nice. Sesame with tuna, very nice. If I had to get chicken salad at your deli, I would probably go with sesame.
Oh, that would be an insult.
No, it wouldn't.